Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the Openly Occultic Book Club, where we've been reading the definitive book of human design written by Linda Brunell and authorized by the founder of the human design system, Ra Uru Hu. We've read a lot in this book. I think we're about halfway through. We're touching down today to dig into section 7, which is going to be discussing the 12 profiles. So we're kind of getting into some meaty information. I know what my profile is. Do you know what yours is? Make sure to bring your human design chart and go ahead and share the video as well, particularly with people that are into astrology. They might find this fascinating because it's more than astrology. The human design system is a synthesis, right, of astrology, the i-ching or i-ching, the Kabbalah, the chakra system, quantum physics, genetics, even. So it's a fascinating topic, to me at least, in my opinion. And I think there's plenty other people out there that would be very interested in hearing about this and learning about this system. So thank you for joining me. And let's go ahead and dig in. I've been missing for a little bit, but that's because I had some other projects I had to work on. And but I'm glad to be back and glad that you're joining me today. All right, here we are, section 7, the 12 profiles, the costume of our purpose, right? This is kind of describing our personality in so many ways. Well, I don't know, let's read it, because it's more than our personality. We now arrive at another basic component of human design. Excuse me. Profile is the beginning of establishing a style for life, a role described as the costume of our purpose. It's a costume that we grow into, however, and can either be uncomfortable if distorted by our not self, or feel like our natural skin and the true role that we're here to live out. Profile is also one of the aspects that differentiates you as a unique being. You may be an emotional generator, for instance, sitting with 3 other emotional generators. But if you have different profiles, you're very different people. Together with our incarnation cross, which will be talked about in section 8, profile allows us to live our purpose as our own authentic character on the stage of our life. The basic of profiles, the basis of profile is the recognition of the fundamental duality that exists within each of us. We're a binary consciousness, right? A synthesis of a personality consciousness and a design consciousness. And within profile, we're able to understand the quantum of the two, right? So remember, the personality consciousness is who we think we are, right? And the design consciousness is tied into the DNA, who we are genetically, right? In your DNA, your ancestry, your ancestors, right? Those little quirks. Obviously, the looks of us pops up, right? We're looking like some of our ancestors, and then you're going to have chemistry, cells within you, a design consciousness, a consciousness that is passed down through bloodline, it seems to be, right? So that's interesting. And that's why this word quantum is coming up. Like, this is amazing. So within profile, we're able to understand the quantum of these two consciousness, your personality consciousness and your design consciousness. Now, there's 12 basic profiles, each of which is derived from a combination of the line level definition of the conscious personality sun, which is black here, and the unconscious design sun, which is in the red here. This is illustrated in the graphic below. Our specific interpretation of our profile, the role that our character plays, makes our life performance unique from all others. And the drama, the movie, begins at birth. So looking at this graphic, we can see how we deduct what our profile is. Because we just take the the number that's after the dot on the profile line, which would be 1 here, right? And the number that's after the dot, right, on the design side. So this person would be a 1-3 profile. So we're just dealing with the sun sign. The sun sign and the earth sign usually have the same number after the dot. I haven't seen anywhere it doesn't. So the sun sign and the earth sign. So let's see. Let me pull up my body graph. Okay, here in my body graph, as we can see when we zoom in on the personality and design side, I would be a 1-3 profile because I have a 1 here in my sun and earth sign right here on the personality side, and I have a 3 after the dot here on the design side, right, in the sun and earth signs. So, and then when I just scroll out to see the full chart, it doesn't tell you what my profile is on this particular chart. You could get your human design chart from all kinds of sources, all kinds of websites. So some charts don't have the personality sign. So it's good to learn how to read this chart, all these symbols and what these numbers mean. So now you know how to easily look at somebody's chart and tell what profile they are, right? I'm a 1-3. What are you? Leave in the comments what your profile is, okay? So let's get to this. The body graph above has a 1-3 profile. You'll find your profile listed on the top of your chart, or you can also locate it by taking the information from your chart as illustrated. Profile structure. The basis of profile is the hexagram, the 64 hexagrams, or gates, in the body graph. They each have 6 lines, giving us a deeper level of differentiation than the gates or hexagrams themselves, right? The key to understanding profile and why there is such incredible differentiation in the way in which human beings live out their lives is found in understanding the lines. The basic structure of a hexagram is divided into 2 parts. So first of all, we're dealing with sacred geometry, right? We got a hexagram. The hexagrams in the i-ching are akin to the gates in the body graph, right? So you'll get your hexagrams, you'll get your i-ching information, as well as, just the general understanding of energy. And it gets very specific when you're starting to look at your human design profile, because again, if I were to pull up my human design chart, as we said, I'm a 1-3 profile. That's based off of the number after the dot in the sun and earth sign on both the personality and design side. However, the number before the dot is specifying the gate that my sun sign is in. Right here on the personality side, my personality sun sign is in gate or hexagram 15, and then it's getting more specific with which type of energy it is by saying it's line 1, right? And then on my design side, my sun sign is in gate 25, but there's 6 different lines in the hexagram. So you're going to have one of 6 numbers that's going to follow that dot on both your personality and design side. My design is in gate 25, line 3. That's what we're being shown here. So we have astrology, right? We see all of these different gates and lines have different, going up and down my design and personality side, we see all these different astrological symbols, right? We see the moon sign, the Mercury, the Venus, the Mars, Jupiter, and so on. But we also, it's more than astrology because we're told what gate or hexagram in that astrological sign. And then we're going even a step further by saying which line it's in that hexagram that you specifically have. This is the specific energy you have going in your chemistry, in your body, right? So I love it. It's like a treasure map, right? Is this not like a treasure map? And who doesn't like looking for treasure, right? And here it is. The treasure is you. So, the basic structure of a hexagram is divided into two parts. The lower trigram, which is lines 1, 2, and 3, and the upper trigram, which is lines 4, 5, and 6. The line structure flows from line 1 at the bottom of the hexagram upwards, right? So we'll see the illustration below to visualize that. There are specific themes connected with each of the trigrams, and the specific values associated with each of the 6 primary lines, which are described more fully on the pages that follow. The 6 basic line themes, or primary roles, such as Investigator, Hermit, Martyr, Opportunist, Heretic, and Role Model, also provide a theme for all hexagrams in the body graph. For instance, the investigatory quality of line 1 will be an underlying theme for each or every line 1 in every hexagram or gate in the body graph. A full description of the lines of each hexagram can be found in section 10. Okay, we're in section 7 at the moment. But we're going to start getting more information about lines, which we knew was going to happen because it was being brought up in previous videos, in previous sections of this book, but a full understanding of what it was describing hadn't come forth yet. So now we know we'll learn more about these lines in section 10. But for now, we know that there's 6 basic line themes or primary roles / characters, right, of people. You have the Investigator, the Hermit, the Martyr, the Opportunist, the Heretic, and the Role Model. Okay, and we heard earlier that the hexagram is divided into 2 parts, the lower trigram and the upper trigram. So let's go on. The 6 primary roles, hexagram structure of gate 10. The 6 primary roles are the basic profile themes and are rooted in the line divisions of the 10th hexagram, the gate of treading, or the behavior of the self. Profile is a combination of 2 of these primary roles. The qualities of these 2 roles, are lived or experienced differently through our personality, who we think we are, or who we think we are, and our design, which is our innate nature, right? Is genetics. Together, they form a quantum and the costume for how we live our life in the world, right? So it's greater than the one, and the one plus the one, it creates a new thing. So your profile is listed by personality and then design, i.e., a 3rd line personality and a 5th line design will be displayed as a 3-5 profile. Your profile can also be keynoted through the names of the themes of the lines, so that a 3-5 profile is also referred to as a martyr / heretic. Okay? Hexagram 10, the gate of the behavior of the self. So as we see here, we got the upper trigram and the lower trigram. The numbers start from the lower trigram going up, right? So down at the bottom, we have the 1, which is the investigator, right? Introspection, chameleon, empathy. Line 2 is hermit, the natural, projection, democrat. Line 3 is the martyr, trial and error, mutation, adaption. Line 4 is opportunist, externalization, friendliness, abdicator. Line 5 is heretic, universalization or universalizing, projection, and the general. And we have, last but not least, part of the upper trigram, the top line being 6, the role model, administrator, optimist, peacemaker. So let's talk about the hexagram structure. using the house metaphor. It's helpful to use the house as a metaphor for understanding the 6 lines and their qualities. The first line is the foundation upon which the house is built. The second line is the living space on the first floor of the house, with curtains wide open that others on the street look into. The third line is the transitional space or spiral staircase moving from the first to the second floor. The fourth line is the second story or second floor foundation of the house. The fifth line is the mysterious curtained second story window with expectant speculators outside. And the sixth line is the roof of the house with a bird's eye view into the next house and the rest of the neighborhood and even beyond. So this is a great metaphor. This is excellent visualization and understanding of what kind of energy you can start to understand the difference between these energies. You might not know exactly fully what comes with each of these lines, but you can definitely start to tell there's a difference, right? There's a difference between these lines. So we love it. Here's the primary roles by the lower trigram, right? Remember, the lower trigram are lines 1 through 3. We can see it looking at this picture, this image of this house with each of the lines, numbers being shown so that you can start to get an understanding of the difference. The lower trigram, we're dealing with foundational things and a transitionary type energy, right? The line 3 is like in between the first and the fourth floor. You know, the first it's like the spiral staircase is how it just was described. So we can see that we're dealing with foundational. This is why it's called the lower trigram, right? Lines 1 through 3. The lower trigram is a very self-absorbed process, very personal. These are roles that are not rushing out to externalize and don't particularly want to have much to do with others. Wow. Again, what is your profile? Do you have lines 1 through 3? Let's get this information going. Let's share, and now we can start to discuss our experiences, particularly in the CGH Openly Occultic Book Club chat room, right? Meet us in the chat room. Let's talk about these things, right, with other people that are into this. Okay. It says line 1, investigator, introspection, chameleon, and empathy. So I'm a line 1. Line 1 is the ground floor or base of the hexagram. The first lines are driven to investigate the foundation of things, to discover how life works, right? And that's what we're doing here today, literally. Okay, we're investigating what we've been hearing about human design. And we're going to discover how life works, because this is all about energy work, right? Energy. And that's just as natural as anything. That's where what it's all about. So we're investigating the foundation of things. And once these line 1s have firmly established a secure foundation, they're able to relax. The more they know, the less they fear, as first lines feel like if we can be secure, everything is possible. Their insecurity drives them to seek authorities and become authorities themselves. And yet, pursuit of their investigations is an introspective process that usually says, I'm busy studying, doing my research, so don't bother me. The secure foundations that the first line creates are then externalized or universalized by the lines of the upper trigram. Okay, we're seeing a wholeness here, a balance. So some energies are going to just do the investigative work, and it's a very introspective, solitary type process. But the people with lines 4, 5, and 6, the upper trigrams, these are the people who will externalize or universalize this information that the line 1s have investigated. I love it. Okay, so we're definitely seeing how all things work together for the greater good. We're seeing teamwork. We're seeing, even if you don't realize you're playing a role, you're playing a role. Okay, so just accept you as you are, be authentically you, and all this will work. This will all work. There is also a deeply empathetic nature to the first line, and its ability to take in information from the other can be very transformative. So, the line one's natural ability to take in information from others can help them or assist that line one with transformation, right? Because they're observing, they're taking this information in, this data in, and processing it. And it starts with them, right? They're laying a foundation with their investigative work, so they transform. This assists them with the transformation process. The first lines study behavior. They watch how people act, and they learn to see which behavior works and which behavior doesn't work. When feeling insecure, like a chameleon, they'll change, right? They'll change their colors to blend in. They're not actually changing anything, but they're very good at letting you see what they think you need to see, right? Don't get distracted by other stuff, right? I just look like this. Come on. It's the message, not the messenger. But it's also the messenger. We're thankful to be playing a role, right? The message comes through us. The message comes through you. Anyway, they're very good at letting you see what they think you need to see. The keynote for Gate 10, Line 1, is modesty, or the ability to know one's place and how to act despite circumstances. First lines are very sensitive in this way, and nothing is more important to them than being able to see that they can navigate on this plane and that all is going to be okay. First line designs have a need for a secure physical foundation as well. The most common not self feeling for the first line is a sense of inferiority, generally because they don't allow themselves the focused self absorption that's necessary to fully investigate and establish a foundation. Okay? You got it? So the not self feeling for the first line is a sense of inferiority. And it usually comes about because you're not allowing yourself the focused self absorption that's necessary to fully investigate and establish a foundation. Strategy and authority will determine the correct investigations for first lines and allow them to focus on one thing at a time, which can also relieve a great deal of their not self anxiety. Here's a quote from Ra Uru: "The very nature of a hexagram, the very construct itself, cannot survive without a solid foundation." Just to show how important or uniquely made, how who you are as a gift plays a role for things, right? So we'll be thankful about the line ones. Line 2, Hermit, the natural, projection, Democrat. Line 2 is like a seed that sits in the drawer for years, waiting for just the right time to be planted so it can awaken, grow, and produce its unique fruit. Wow, how beautiful is that? While the first line investigates in order to build a foundation, second lines are naturals who do not know where their innate gifts originate from. Just naturals. They don't even know where it comes from. It's natural. Second lines are noticed for their natural talents or genius and are then called out by others who want their gifts to be used in a particular way. These are hermits, however, that want only to be left alone to do their own thing, their own way. While first lines need others to aid in their investigations, second lines are self contained and can feel very uncomfortable when others step into their aura and expect something from them. They don't want to and don't even know if they can explain to you how they do what they do, or even worse, how you should do it. They behave very democratically because they don't want to be bothered or have to invest their energy in taking sides. The natural talent that second lines possess does not respond well to interference of any kind. In our analogy of the house, it's as if they're standing alone in front of the first floor window, lights on, happily self absorbed in their own play, and not realizing that they're being observed by those outside on the street. You see that? In fact, second line personalities generally don't even want to go outside into the world. They're waiting to receive the correct call, specific to their unique life purpose, that will allow them to share their true genius with the world, right? So remember the analogy that was given earlier. They're like a seed that's sitting in the drawer, right? I have a little dish full of seeds that I take out of the fruit and vegetables that I purchase from the store, right? Tomato seeds, avocado seeds, mango seeds, things like that, right? So this seed is sitting off, tucked away in a drawer somewhere, waiting to be taken out and watered so that it will grow into something. So they just want to chill out, chill in their own energy, minding their own business, doing their own thing, and they're waiting to be plucked up and watered. They're waiting to receive the correct call specific to their unique life purpose that will then allow them to share their true genius, their true gift, their natural gift with the world. And it's only through strategy and authority that the second line will know if a call is correct. Fulfillment is very important to the second line. And if they can't live up to the projections placed on them, or if they allow themselves to answer calls that are not correct and that they cannot fulfill, they can suffer greatly and isolate even more than is natural or healthy. Okay? Have you been doing that? Here's a quote from Ra Uru Hu. Just sit by the river. Sooner or later, something will come by. This is readiness for the unknowable, whatever it may be. So just get ready or stay ready so you don't have to get ready. While you're chilling in your drawer, waiting for that spark, waiting for that call, waiting for that water to be poured on you, you be planted in the ground, and that gift of what you are to be on display, this natural thing that you are. While you're waiting for that, do your own thing. Be ready for the call. Find what you want to do, what you're good at, and then when that call comes, you'll be ready. Line 3, the martyr, trial and error, mutation, adaptation. The great gift of line 3s, or third lines, is discovering what does not work. As the transition point between the first and second floors of the house, the personal and the transpersonal, life bumps into them in every way, or they bump into it, and discover through the trial and error process how the material plane operates. That's interesting. Side note, I was I don't know, I was on social media, Twitter, I think, and we still call it Twitter, don't we? I don't know what X is. Anyway, I was on Twitter, and somebody was saying line three, wherever you have line 3 in your chart, will kind of point out to you where you'll make your money from, how you'll make money. So, can anybody confirm that? If you have any more to add to that about line 3 and money, can you leave a comment on that? Let us know in the comments, so we can continue practicing our experiment. As it said, this line 3 person constantly bumps into life in a way. And through this interaction, they discover through trial and error how the material plane operates. Third lines are our key catalysts of change. And even though they may at times appear socially inept and very often feel alone, they're the most interpersonally adaptable line of the lower trigram, with a natural resilience and tenacity that will sustain them through their discovery process. How about that? So you're built for the life, and it'll be ups and downs, and mayhaps you'll start to feel like a failure. But you're actually discovering what does not work. You'll discover what does work through the process. And you have a natural resilience and tenacity to go through that journey, that discovery process. Okay? This is excellent news, don't you think? You're built for it. Isn't that great? You have the energy for it. So you just have a unique experience as someone with a third line. So, everybody can't do this. Everybody's not built like this. But this shows how beautiful this is. This shows how, even though we're all individuals, uniquely, equally, right? We're equally unique and different. And we all equally are a gift, a unique, different gift to the world. There's a wholeness still here. There's a wholeness to where we're one unit that's constantly mutating, evolving, growing, transforming. And I love the idea of that. I'm such a hippie. A third line is more likely to notice and recognize a potential new mutation faster than anybody else, simply because they bumped into it, often associated with scientific exploration, but from the standpoint of what's not working, and deeply material. Third lines don't take life at face value. Okay, they do not take life at face value. They will kick the tires and look to see where the flaw, the loophole, or the trick is, right? These are the people in the matrix, right? These are the people that are looking at the code. They're trying to figure out, what's the trick to getting out of the matrix in so many ways, right? They're investigating. Are we in a simulation? And if it's code, is there a way to break this code? Is there a loophole? What's the trick? These people are investigating, and primarily they find what does not work. But boy, when they find out what does work, that's great information to have. Please share it with all of us. This is your job, right? This is what you do. This is great. The third line models for us. The third line models for us the transformation that's possible when we're grounded in our bodies on the material plane. These beings, whose natural gift is challenging the falsehoods, are ultimately mutating the Maya. They're also going to notice what doesn't work in a relationship faster than anybody else, which is why their theme is bonds made and broken. Bonds made and broken. The keynote of Martyr refers to the third line's ability to stand up and say, "This is not true," and take the heat for it, right? So another name to describe the third line is martyr. This is because they do trial and error, and they find out very quickly what does not work, and it gives them the strength to be able to stand up and say, "This is not true." And they'll take the heat for that, right? What do you mean that's not true? This doesn't work. What are you saying to me? This doesn't work. Yeah, you're just a hamster on a hamster wheel. You're butting your head up against a brick wall. That's crazy talk. I'll explain it. Give me some time. They'll take the heat for it. Well, I won't explain it. Don't worry about it. You'll find out. You'll figure it out. So, but they can stand up and say it, and they can stand the heat as well for speaking the truth that they found through investigation, hands-on experience, right? Scientific exploration. When operating correctly as true self, however, there's no such thing as failure. For a third line, only discovery. Bonds made and broken can become a natural mechanism in their life, such as the parent who leaves the house to go to work each day and then returns. The third line is also part of the sixth line, which has a three-part life process, right? So we'll get into that when we get to line 6, the role model. But we already know through, we're into angel numbers, we're into numerology, We understand the 111, the 222, the 333. We understand the 432, the 369, right? Tesla let us know everything is frequency. If you understand the secrets of 369, you can understand everything. So when we get to the 6 line, we have to understand that the third line is part of the sixth line, right? Yes. Okay, and so its mutative quality permeates the profile roles more than any other line. Speaking of this line 3, the mutative quality of line 3 permeates the profile roles more than any other line. Here's a quote from Ra Uru Hu. Whatever comes their way, speaking of this third line, or someone with the third line energy, whatever comes their way, there is always a message with important information. They're the weavers of the Maya. Come on. The weavers of the Maya. Primary roles by upper trigram. All right, so let's get into the upper trigram, lines 4 through 6. When we move upward into the upper trigram, the mechanics of the roles change entirely. The upper trigram is a transpersonal, outer directed process, right? Whereas that the lower trigram, the 1 through 3, it was more of a interpersonal, inner process. Because through all that learning and investigation, these people are transforming in the midst of that. Transformation is occurring for them in the midst of that. So it's more internal. But for the lines 4 through 6, this is dealing with transpersonal, outer directed energy. These roles have an essential need to share socially with others, to share the past and the possibilities of the future. Line 4, Opportunist, externalization, friendliness. In harmony with the first line, the fourth line represents the foundation of the second floor of the house and builds upon the security that the first line creates. There's also a fragility to line 4 in that it must also allow an opening for the transition into the upper trigram, right? This is where the line 3, right? The staircase. So line 4 has a fragility because it has to have an opening for the transition from line 3 to line 4, to the upper story house in this analogy we're speaking of. While line 3 is deeply involved with material resources, line 4 is the foundation of transpersonal relationships and concerned with human resources. Human resources. The fourth line is deeply influential and waits for opportunities to embrace its community and externalize the foundations, gifts, or discoveries of the lower trigram. Okay? They want to bring out the foundations, the gifts, and the discoveries, right? The line 1 is the foundation. Line 4 wants to bring it out to the world, the information and the things found through that line 1's process of getting to the foundation of things. So line 4 brings that out. Line 2 with its gifts that it naturally has, right? Line 4 wants to bring that out to the world, externalize it, right? Because line 2 is just sitting there in their house, minding their business, sitting in their own space, minding their business, not even really realizing that people are seeing them. People outsiders looking at them and they're like, wow, they're really good at this, they're really good at that. Hey, you know what? You're really good at home designing. Can you come design my home for me? You're really creative. I love how you do what you do. This person was just doing it for themselves, doing a little hobby, just something that they enjoy doing. Somebody outside saw that they had a natural gift for this. And what we're reading here is the fourth line is the one that wants to bring the gift that this line 2 naturally has to the world, externalize it to the greater community. And then the discoveries of line 3, right? Line 3 found out what didn't work. And in the midst of finding that, they found what did work. And now line 4 wants to bring those discoveries to the world, externalize it. Okay? An innate friendliness, akin to brotherhood or sisterhood, facilitates the fourth line's gift for networking. This friendliness creates the opening needed, but also makes fourth lines susceptible to surprise and shock. Okay? So it's kind of a fragility that they have with this fourth line energy because they need to be able to network and create the openings for those lines 1, 2s, and 3s for all that information to be brought out to the world. So they got to be able to network with those line 1s, 2s, and 3s. And so they have a friendliness about them. But because of this, they're also susceptible to surprise and shock, right? Their sphere of influence, therefore, is typically limited to people with whom they've already established relationships. Strangers are not generally correct for them, other than as casual contacts. Did you know that? Are you a fourth line? Did you know fourth lines work better with people they already know versus strangers? Are you an influencer with line 4? I mean, what's going on? How can we use this information to better guide our lives? Because it says here fourth lines are better with already established connections. Do you find that to be true? Quality of life for fourth lines is in direct proportion to the quality of their network of friends and associates. Establishing their energies in correct relationships allows them to enjoy a genuine camaraderie. There's also an inflexibility, however, which creates a tendency towards people burnout for the fourth line. And they need times of retreat to nurture and rejuvenate themselves. The potential opportunities that their networks offer must bring a return on the energy investment that they've put into it, or they may abdicate and find a network that does. The fourth lines who are living correctly do not create their networks, however. Their correct networks are already there, and they meet them through strategy and authority. The fourth line, having a fixed quality, must transition securely from one network or relationship to another, or they'll lose its security and true opportunities to influence. You see that? Because for that fourth line, it's really about influencing. You need your network. And before you just quit your circle of friends, quit your job with your coworkers and all these opportunities and doors that you can walk through to influence the greater world, you got to transition to a new network or a new relationship, right? Um, so I don't know. It kind of sounds like this person needs to get in a new relationship before they quit their old relationship. That's got to be tough for your lovers and partners. Do you find that that's better for you and your peace of mind, though, fourth lines? Leave it a comment. Let me know. Because it's saying here that you have a fixed quality. You actually need your network. This is actually how you use your gift for the world, right? Because you're in between that third line and that lower part of the house and the upper part of the house. You're right there at the top. So you need to be able to have access to the line 1, 2s, and 3s. You need a network so that you can get that information and bring it out to the external world. But to transition securely from one network or relationship to another, uh, you got to be able to transition securely. You can't just quit something and now you have no network. So, what do you think? You have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a wife, a husband, a partner, which comes with its own network, and a lot of great times are had, a lot of information is flowing, a lot of growth and transformation is occurring. Um, but there's somebody else, or something's going wrong in that relationship, and you need somebody else. You're ready to move around. This isn't working out. Um, Do you typically find yourself getting a new partner before letting the old partner know, hey, how do I say this? You're fired. I don't know. How do you do that? And does it work? This is the question. So, but it seems like, and this helps us. ourselves, those of us who are not fourth lines. It helps us understand why these people do what they do, So I don't know. Maybe we can have a little bit more grace and mercy and understanding for people like that because we understand what's going on energetically, right? This is very interesting. So let me know in the comments about your fourth line experiences. Let me know if you actually find it better for you to get a new job or a new partner before you let the old job and the old partner know that they have no future with you. Here's a quote from Ra Uru Hu. The fourth line is about the human resources of the material plane. People are the biggest decisions and investments that they make in their life, right? People are the biggest decisions and investments that they make in their own lives, right? So, fourth line is about human resources. Some people, line ones, have been doing investigation. Some people, like line twos, have been naturally cultivating their natural gift. Certain people, like line threes, are doing scientific research on what doesn't work and finding out what does in the midst of that. So, a fourth line is about the human resources that you get from those lower lines. Yes. All right. Line 5, heretic, universalizing, projection, and the general. Universalizing, projection, and the general. The fifth line carries the responsibility of universalizing the message of the hexagram. Those with a fifth line carry the most transpersonal karma and are most effective as a stranger of consequences, such as the general who steps in when the standard solutions have failed and offers a practical yet outside the box solution. The auras of fifth lines invite people in need or crises to project onto them a potential for rescue. Heretics operate in a projection field that seduces the other into recognizing the potential power that there is or that's there. But fifth lines can also be very suspicious as others see things in them that are not there or have expectations of them that they cannot meet. The fifth line, peeking out through the curtains of the second story window of the house, looks out at the world and very often hides from it at the same time. Strategy and authority provides a practical and trustworthy tool for determining which situations are correct for the fifth line to step into to provide a solution. If unaware of the projection field, fifth lines may be flattered by and believe others' perceptions of them as saviors. In order to not buy into the illusions that others may have about them, fifth lines must be truly aware of themselves and what they're really capable of solving or saving. The heretic's reputation, and that's another name for the fifth line, the heretic's reputation is totally dependent upon the success or failure of their solutions to meet the other's expectations. If they've not provided something of real value, they may be figuratively burned at the stake. Once the crisis has passed and the heretic's leadership is no longer needed, however, they're generally ignored. This is the fifth line's natural time to regroup, as heretics are not on duty constantly, but are expected to be standing by, ready and able when the next crisis arrives. That was a mouthful. Very informative, fifth lines. Wow. And you got to use your strategy and authority to know what energy you should invest yourself into, what project you should invest, or what situations you should invest your energy into. Because your reputation as a heretic, as a fifth line, is totally dependent upon the success or failure of the solutions that you decide to meet. These people have expectations of you to solve this problem. And, your reputation is dependent upon you succeeding or failing at solving this problem. But it might not even be your problem to solve. So if you use your strategy and authority correctly, you know which things to not invest your time into. I don't need to solve that problem. Leave that to somebody else to solve. Go to someone else for a savior or a solution for your problems. That's not what I'm into, you know. And then um, you take on the projects that are for you. And then once you're done with that project, you know, um, and you're no more needed, now's your time to naturally regroup, right? Because you're not always on duty. You can get rest. Fifth line. Did you hear me? You can get rest. You're not always on duty, but you're expected to be ready when called on. Okay. Ra Uruhu says, whatever you're going to do in this life, make sure it has a practical application. That's out to you, line fives, heretics. If that's the case, you'll be a success, whatever it is. But if it's not the case, then you have the reputation problem. It follows you wherever you go. Okay? Now let's jump into line 6, and we're going to wrap it up, I think, for the day. Line 6, role model, administrator, optimist, peacemaker. The 6th line stands alone from the other 5 lines of the hexagram and is best described as sitting on the roof. Though sometimes perceived as disinterested, right? Sometimes they're a little aloof. Their perspective provides the 6th line with a vantage point from which to look back over the other 5 lines while also looking ahead toward line 1 of the next hexagram. How about that? How about that? Whereas line 5 is moving towards others, line 6 eventually moves away from them in order to go through a unique 3-stage life process and emerge as the mature role model. So line 6s have a 3-stage life process, unique from all the other lines. They're able to, they're also in a kind of transitioning energy because they're looking over all the previous lines and then also looking ahead to the next line 1. Okay, so let's see what it says about these different stages that they go through, this 3-stage process before emerging as a mature role model. Stage 1, from birth to approximately 30 years old, is one of exploring and living life through the 3rd line, which has the process of trial and error and bonds made and broken. Driven to seek a soulmate, which is a 6th line attribute, they generally do not until they complete stage 2 around the age 50. So from birth to approximately 30 years old is stage 1 for this line 6 person. And they're usually driven to seek a soulmate, but they don't usually get one until the end of stage 2, which comes about around the age of 50. 6 lines are not resilient like true 3rd lines, however, and the chaotic getting bumped into process can lead to disillusionment, right? Disillusionment and a pessimistic view of life by their late 20s, right? They don't like that line 3 energy. They don't like this whole scientific process of bumping into life and having to learn what doesn't work. They're not into it. It gets chaotic by their late 20s. In order to regain their optimism, they look for a way to retreat physically and or emotionally from the world. A 6th line's first Saturn return at approximately 28 years old marks the climb up on the roof, and the external discovery process shifts to a more internal one. Okay? So around age 28, when they get their first Saturn return, right? Astrology talk. Right? You guys into astrology? Apparently, your first Saturn return comes at approximately 28 years old. And at that time, stage 1 of this line 6 person is towards the end because they're getting tired of the whole line 3 bumping into life and having to figure out what doesn't work. So at this point, they're tired of that and they kind of retreat. in so many ways, physically and emotionally. So it's kind of visualized as a climb up on the roof, and their external discovery process shifts to a more internal one. And that's the beginning of stage two. So, stage two, from about 30 to 50 years of age, is one of withdrawing from the chaos of the third line experience in order to heal and reflect. Going up on the roof, that's what we call it. Going up on the roof is a time to observe and discover what is trustworthy and really works in the world, to reevaluate life and develop the resources that they'll need later. Their energy may feel more aloof to others, but they're also beginning to be looked at for their wisdom, right? Now you're beginning to be looked to for your wisdom. During this time of inner retreat, sixth lines generally feel the most secure as they start to settle in and choose a vocation, a mate, and or raise a family. Their third line discoveries are now integrated and become the foundation for the outer authority that they'll express as the role model. Hmm. My dad has a sixth line. He's 77. He just turned 77, and absolutely full of life wisdom that he's learned over time. And this is interesting to know that before I knew him, uh, before he turned 30, he was going through this line 3 energy, which I have, right? Because I'm a line 1. I'm a 1-3 profile. So to know that he's been going through that 3 energy, that he went through that, lets me know he does understand me more than I thought he did. Just because he's going through the things that I've gone through. He just got tired of that shit, right? And said, let me go on and back up and see what actually works. Let me go ahead and he settled in. He chose a vacation, just like it's saying. He found his wife, my mother. He raised a family, me and my sister, all of that, right? And then it says here at stage 3, now stage 3 begins with the Chiron return at approximately 50 years of age. Shout out to Chiron. I love learning about Chiron, the wounded healer, right? The wounded healer. So stage 3 begins with the wounded healer, the Chiron return at approximately 50 years of age. They're now nudged or kicked off the roof to engage fully in the world once more, this time as their authentic, optimistic, sixth line self. This can be a time of radical shifts in their lives, and they may be particularly vulnerable if they don't know how to make decisions as their own authority. The awake role model is a living example of an aware being living a unique purpose. Hypocrisy is very difficult for a sixth line to deal with. They're deeply trusting beings and model to us how we too can trust our own authority and live our unique life. By entering deeply into experiences when young, remaining aloof and healing through inner work in midlife, and re engaging and flowering into the world after age 50, sixth lines bring a unique perspective and wisdom to the way that life can work. Theirs is an example of the transcendent life possible as a ninth centered being. Wow. Wow. So here's a quote by Ra Uru Hu about this sixth line energy. Every sixth line being carries the magic of the future. It carries the magic of what's possible for a human being, what's possible for any human being if they're fortunate enough in this life to come in contact with this knowledge and they get to experiment with it and see for themselves. Right? Because my dad doesn't know anything about human design. But it's interesting to talk to him because you could just hear the wisdom. He might not know words to explain these things. He might not know anything about metaphysics, planets and Saturn and these type of things, numerology and how life is nothing but frequency and magnetism. He might not know anything about these things. But when you listen to the wisdom that just pours out, in between the lines, he knows something, even if he didn't read it, even if he didn't listen to someone speak of it, even if he didn't attend a class, he knows. And it's cool because I'm very much into human design. I'm very much into astrology and energy work. And to talk to my father, who I have all the respect for, all the love for, and to hear him know about these things without even knowing about it in so many ways, it tickles me because I see him living his authentic self, even without knowing that that's the battle, you know? Even without knowing that's the battle, he's fighting and he's living authentically himself. And boy, what a gift, you know? What a flow. It's not swimming upstream. It's not fighting against the current. There's a flow there. And in the midst of that, when things flow like that, that energy, the light, right? Love is at the root of that, guys. Love is at the root of that. This is love. This is what we're talking about, right? So, love for self, and it breeds love for others, not just other humans, men and women, old people and babies, those with compromised systems, the disabled and the sick, but animals, the cats and the dogs, the donkeys, the giraffes and the elephants, the birds, the fish, the dolphins, and the plants, and the trees, and your crystals, right? Your amethyst, your citrine, your black tourmaline, right? Your selenite. You just, the love flows in that. And I'm glad to experience it from the perspective of someone who's not constantly investigating and researching. My dad doesn't have a 9-1. He probably has it somewhere in his chart, but I'm a 1-3 and I have plenty of 1 lines. I'm an investigator. That is my nature. But for him to not be an investigator, but to still have these answers, that's a gift. And it just makes me listen more to him and makes me love him and appreciate him being in my life even more. So, all's well that ends well, guys. Here's a note. It says, as 9-centered beings, regardless of our particular profile, we all develop slowly. Between age 40 and 50, between our Uranus opposition and Chiron return, we experience a second wind, a reorientation that occurs during the mature chapters of our life. Humanity is evolving away from the universalizing savior or general fifth line towards the sixth line process of self leadership and self mastery based in self acceptance and self awareness. Right? You're not looking for another outward human authority or any authority outward of you. We don't care about Trump, Biden. We don't care about politics, these politicians. We don't care about a king or a queen, a dutch or duchess, a countess. We don't care about a pharaoh. We just don't care because at the end of the day, I am my own authority, right? So you're going from this looking for this savior, like we're looking towards these fifth line people's ass, right? We're looking to fifth line people. We're projecting onto fifth lines what we expect them to do to help solve our problem. And in the midst of that, they might become a martyr, or I mean, they're a heretic because they might take on the job without it ain't even their job to do. But and then they fail, and then now we're mad at them, right? So now they got to go through a crisis. But we're moving away from all that, looking for someone else to solve our problems. Is what's being said here. Humanity is evolving away from the universalizing savior, which is what the fifth line is about. We're moving away from that towards the sixth line process of self leadership and self mastery based in self acceptance and self awareness. Right? Beautiful. Those with line 6 in their profile are here to show us how to make that transition correctly. Wow. After age 50, they're here to model transcendence, or what it's like to live our truth as an authentic, objective, and aware human being. Yes. Yes. Excellent news. I think we're going to stop here. We're going to keep this video short. We're going to stop here. When we pick back up on the next video, we will get into the geometric progression of the profiles, right? The 3 geometries. When we were reading the different gates in the different circuitry, we kept seeing on the different gates, it was saying, oh, this gate also is found in the left angle incarnation cross of so-and-so, or the juxtaposition JC incarnation cross of this and that, or the right angle incarnation cross. So, and if you don't remember, go ahead and go back to the section 6 videos, right? Because every time we read a different gate within the different circuitry, there was the individual circuitry, the communal circuitry, and the tribal circuitry. And each gate we read, or hexagram we read for each of those circuitries, it was discussing how that gate was also part of one of these geometric progression, these geometric profiles, part of the left angle, juxtaposition, or right angle. So we'll get into that more when we come back. And as you know, we're digging into the 12 profiles. That information is coming, but first we had to deal with the lines. And we needed to understand the hexagram, the lower trigram and the upper trigram, right? We need to understand that house analogy, right? So we could just kind of understand the differences between these energies and how they're different, right? So that was good stuff. That was definitely good stuff. I'm all the better for that now that I'm informed about that information. You know, it's right up my alley, right? I'm doing my investigation work, right? So, and I thank you guys for joining me in this investigation work that I've taken on. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And again, if you get a chance, meet us in the CGH chat room. I'm just trying to create a place for us to discuss these things because more and more people are learning about human design as the days go on. And I'm just kind of trying to create this place so that people can start to go there and we'll have a place where we can discuss these things. So, with that being said, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Wholeness and balance.